Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's June 25th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and you can see we bounced right off of that blue trend line again. Um, are we going to go higher from here? It's just hard to say. We had those 3-day down days, so not surprising that we get a little support right there. There's a um, envelope, one of the envelope bands there as well. This is a bid line. This is the same thing as a 21 EMA. These other lines are based off of some different, more proprietary information. There's fib lines and some other stuff involved in that. It's pretty complicated actually. So um, it looks like we had a close outside here, but maybe we did. And I think my line has shifted a little. I think it was more like that. And if that's the case, we haven't even bounced off that line yet. We just had a little it looks like a 2-bar matching low there. That low's 55.10 and a quarter. That low is 55.11. So it's not quite, we had a little higher low there on that. So it's not really a matching lows. Looks like it almost, but it's not quite. So, um, yeah, looking at it like that, maybe we still need to either go sideways or come down just a little bit before we rally. So we'll have to see. We did um, take care of some of the overbought. We're not quite as overbought. I would say we're still a little overbought here, but we're not in the serious overbought territory where an imminent correction's due at any moment. So we could go either way from here. This is just an inside bar basically. So we'll see what tomorrow brings and we'll go from there. Let's flip over to our 2000 tick chart, and it was a range day, but it closed on its high. It broke out at the end, and of course, and that late afternoon rally we usually see, and it was there again today, and we did close close to the highs today. So let's flip over there and take a look. And here it is. You can see we spent most of the day in this range. We finally made a little double bottom down here, rallied, broke out, failed, of course, pushed higher, and then after 2:30 we pushed higher once again. So we didn't quite close on our high, but we closed higher today and near our higher. And here's the red lines where we closed yesterday. So we did close up. So even though we spent most of the day just kind of going sideways, we did close on our high. Let's zoom in here. Take a little closer look at it. Early on we had this trend up, and then we were just kind of working sideways, and we failed out both sides multiple times, and you want to put your measured moves on there, and you can see we did drop down here. We actually went a little further. We were probably attempting to fill that gap, and it wasn't until later in the afternoon that we did that. So that would have been my guess, is that this was an attempt to fill that gap, but that measured move was just too strong. They drove it higher again before it sells off, and a big nice trend down. But once we filled that gap and tested the overnight lows and they held, it was off to the races, back to the upside again. And we didn't get a lot of opportunity to trade this. There was a chance to get in it early up here. I'll talk about that when we get to it. Let's zoom in here and we'll go through the trades and get through the chart today. There was one news item at 9 o'clock that was red, consumer confidence. That's right in here. Prices sold off, or they actually tended to rally on that because the little sell-off was just going into that news item, and right at 9 o'clock we rallied a little bit. Nothing crazy here, but it was a slight rally off of it, I would say. But our 7 o'clock came as we're trending higher here. We had this failed breakout down here. This is your signal bar, the big bearish one, so no chance to get in that. And then we sell off up here, and of course the signal bar is real bullish. And then this one was tempting. If we would have broke higher right here above this bar, I'd say enter here. But when you get this next bar that closes and it it can't break above that one. That doesn't show rejection. We don't see rejection until this bar, and then there's not any room to enter after it. So there's no entry there. And that's what you want to see. You want to see rejection off the highs or rejection off the lows. And sometimes you want to see a failed breakout, and that leads to a big reversal. Like right here, that failed breakout ends up, when it moved that measured move, it leads to a nice rally. And that's what you want to see. You either want to see rejection off these areas, and see, this is not rejection. We're just kind of trending sideways here. We're really finding support at the midline of the main range, and we're stuck between that and support of the previous pink range there. And so we're not going anywhere there, so you got to be real careful with that one. Just keep that in mind. You might have entered long here on the failed breakout, because really what you've got is just another range here that would look like so. And if you color that, we'll just give it a different color just to. And this is a failed breakout. So anyway, we'll come back to that. But we bounce here, no rejection until here, and then there's not any room. We finally break out the upside, and there's instant rejection back in. This actually broke higher and turned down. Maybe you enter. This is a big bullish bar, so you could enter that on the engulfing bar. It's a little riskier. I don't think I'd wait till this one closed because we may push back up one more time. But when you get this lower high back inside the range, just go short there. And I wouldn't be afraid to enter that on the engulfing bar. And you might even enter that on the close because it does close back inside the range. So it just depends on, it's a little riskier if you enter. That's just such a big bar. It's a little riskier if you enter after it closes. Even if you do the engulfing bar, it's a little larger. So you're looking at 12 to 14 ticks here versus 9 ticks. And you don't know that you're going to get the lower high. That's the problem. So there's always a risk you get nothing if you don't take a little risk early on. So just keep that in mind. And then it breaks out here. It'll probably fail. You probably couldn't get in this one because it gaps over and goes up real quick. But because we're still inside that channel, I don't think I take that anyway. I'll wait till we get outside here and you get something better. And then we just got congestion here. You can't go long or short really on any of this until the failed breakout. Now maybe you go long there. That's a possibility. You see, you don't have a lot of room back to there, to that high. That's one of the problems with it. But a failed breakout generally is going to fail, and you're going to get back in the range, even if it's going to go lower at some point. So maybe you enter there. You don't get a high or low opportunity here. And then that takes us into the news item. There's nothing really, there's no short here. And that takes us into the news item. And by the time you can trade again, we're over here about a little after 9 o'clock, and we're back in this range. Now, this one is a possibility because it does have the 2-bar matching low, and that does look like rejection there after we traded down so hard. The problem is it's right into the midline, and we couldn't really get back up to the highs before. You do have this channel working up, though, and it is right off that key entry point. So that's another possibility. I'd wait for something better, but it's a possibility. And then we just kind of run up and fail out the upside. But we do get a break here. And now we get a nice signal bar that looks like rejection. We are expecting a retest, attempt to retest the high. It might get stuck here at the resistance of the range, but you'd expect it to try it. And then you get a high or low here, same thing. You're still expecting a retest of the high here, so you could enter on that high or low, and then we just get stuck in this. This one is tempting, but look how many times we tried to go lower there and couldn't go lower, and you see what would have happened. There might be enough there to scalp out. I don't know if it is or not, but I still wouldn't take it. See, there's only 5. That would have been a 4-tick failure on you, unless you got a better entry of some kind, and I don't know if it would have allowed that or not. Once it broke lower and it just rallied right back. It looks like it trapped people and ran straight up. Now you have your new high. You've got your break, your new high, and you also got a failed breakout. So once again, maybe you take that trade. Again, you'd better off to wait on the lower high just to be sure, and you never really get one. That one's tempting, but again, you haven't been able to really go lower yet, so it's just you're better off to wait. It's just not a high probability entry. Drops down here, fails out the lower side, and Riley's right out of there, but it doesn't really go anywhere. There's just not a, I don't like that signal bar. I don't think it's good enough. It doesn't really qualify. This is a high or low, but again, it probably closes in the upper 1/3. I'm not sure if that does or not. It's close, so it's a maybe. But again, it's not a sure thing. I would wait, and you can see it takes a little while here. It would have worked, but you have to kind of fight this out before finally it takes off. And this bar is just too big. Going long right into those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we tried to go higher. It does take off. It does finally look like rejection there. And it runs up here, breaks out up top, and you get that instant reversal right at the measured move. That's what that line is there. That is a measured move based on the width of this range. And if you took your measured move tool, you can see that's what that line is. And we have a little tool in here. You just right click on it and say show measured move. You turn it on, off, turn it back on. And that's what you're looking for, it to go a measured move and look to the tick. And then get that big bearish bar, plus you get a close outside and a new high on this channel. You're probably going to get a failed breakout, plus you went the measured move that far away from the EMA. I like that entry. You're still better off to always wait on the lower high, but I'm telling you, I'll probably take that. I'll still mark it green. And then there's your lower high, still plenty of room back to the EMA, and that's a sure thing almost there. We do get our 2 legs down, and then we're kind of chopping along here sideways. Notice that you do get a triple test there. Nice signal bar. It looks like rejection there off that, right off that level. I didn't draw the line, but it's there. And you actually get another one here. I don't remember why I didn't mark that one. I think there's not enough room. Yeah, there's not really enough room to get out, especially if you look at these 2 highs. You see it's only a point. And even if you go to the top of the range, it's only 5 ticks. So I think that's why I did not mark that one. This one's really the same thing, but you didn't have the double top there. You would expect this to maybe go to the previous highs here, and so that's the reason I like that one. And once we didn't make it, then you got to be concerned that, hey, we got a double top there, and we may have another range here. So you would just have your other line on this side, and you see how that looks different now. But before you have this, you're not as concerned about that. So I would sit tight on that one and then just treat that as a failed breakout. Again, it's a lower high than these last 2. It's really kind of a double top there. It's really a triple top. You can see that. So you got a triple test there. I still mark that green because there's a lot of space between these 2 and this one. I still like it somewhat. If the problem is it didn't break lower on this bar, so it doesn't look like rejection really. So that's why you really want to kind of mark that one green and say maybe. And then here it actually broke higher and failed and turned down. You could trade that on the engulfing bar because it's a bullish bar, but by the time this closes, you can't trade that. And then you also, you got to say, hey, we're probably in a range now. You can kind of see this range setting up by this point. Although you do have a trend line working down. It ends up going lower, but if you didn't enter that on the engulfing bar, I would skip that one because it looks like the range is still in play now. And then we had a bunch of turn downs right here, but no decent signal bar till here. It's just the first entry. This one broke higher and failed and turned down right off the EMA. But again, I think you got to wait on something better than that. There is a second entry short here, but by that time that looks really congested, and we did have an overshoot, and because we're in a range, we've gotten real close. We may not get any. We may not make a new low. We end up making one, so this would have worked. But I just think I mean, it's a possibility. But I think you're better off to wait. You do kind of get a triple test down here, but no signal bar, because that's your signal bar right there, that red one. It makes the low point. Um, and then this, I put this one as a maybe, just because you got this new low and you get a first entry, second entry. So it is a failure right at the key entry point when you're looking for a reversal. It's really close to the midline, so it's not an ideal setup, but I did mark it green. There's a second entry here, but by that time you got a double top, really triple top right into that midline. You just kind of have to sit tight. Another double top here, but that signal bar is no good if you wait on this one, because it does have a matching low. Then you're going long into a double top. Finally, though, you get up here and you get a first entry and a second entry. I'm not as crazy about the second entry, but when you get that triple test, take that trade, especially the fact that it broke lower and bounced right off the line and then turned up. You can't trade it on the engulfing bar, but I like it just to ride it back to the top of the range and hopefully make a new high as well. This is a spiking channel here. And then you get a repeat pattern. Normally I wouldn't even make that green, but because it's almost a perfect repeat pattern, there's a good chance we're going to get another leg up, and it worked this time. It's likely to work the same, and you can see off it goes again. So maybe you take that trade. I still marked it green because it is right into the eyes of the range, and we already do have a breaking new high. So, I mean, it could break up there and fail. But because it's a repeat pattern, it's a possibility. And then we turn back down. There's no entries back down. And then we bounce off this support again. So that's a quadruple test. Looks like rejection off that line. So it's a possibility. It's just and it is a second entry. Notice your new high, first entry, second entry. That's another thing I liked about it. Plus you do have your break and your new low. I mean, you might even argue that that's almost blue. But it does make a slightly lower low than this last one. Just barely, but it does. So, you know, maybe you wait for the higher low and you just never really get that opportunity. This is all too congested here. And that takes us in 230. And you can see we turned back down here and tested that again, turned back down, and looks like the market doesn't open for another 10 minutes. We just kind of chopped sideways after that. But they did run it higher. It did close higher. I just characterize this as a range day with a higher close. So there it is. Nothing spectacular today. There's some trades in there. You had to trade a lot of range rules and things like that today. But that's the way it is when you're stuck sideways mostly like this. So this could just be a consolidation day after the 3 sell-off days. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. We could go either way tomorrow. It's kind of hard to say what the price action is going to do based on what we see on the daily chart with today's action. So anyway, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Not much else we can say about today. Just a range day, and it was really mixed, tight trading in here. And you got to be real careful in this stuff. You got to switch to range rules. You got to be able to find the support and resistance. If you don't, you're going to get chopped to pieces. It's real easy to enter, and then it reverses, and then you get scared and you exit and go the other way, only to find out you were right the first time. And I mean, that's what happens to new traders in this stuff. I mean, when it's a real consistent support line or a real consistent resistance line, it's like taking candy from a baby almost. But when you're getting mixed highs and lows like this, it can be much tougher. and you can get chopped up in a heartbeat. So just be real careful trading this stuff. Um, that's why you see a lot of greens in here. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Hope you had a good trading day. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.